Now, today at 2 p.m., the President of the Republic of Uganda is expected to be addressing the country on the state of the nation. This is a ceremony he's doing every year, but this time round it's not going to be in Parliament. It's going to be from State House and all members of Parliament, and will be following the proceedings from their chambers, but when the President is addressing from his home. Now, we asked you earlier in the show that you should actually send us your contributions on what expectations that the President should emphasize. You can join us on our social media platforms at Urban TV Uganda, on Twitter, on Facebook, Urban Television, on our Twitter handles at Mubarak UG, and also at Lin UG3. Now, we want to actually have a feel of the expectations of the presidential address and which areas should the President be focusing on so much, especially in the circumstances where people are still in a lockdown. Some are working, but of course, with a curfew imposed onto them, they are not yet as free as they have been before. Now, joining us to discuss this is Lynn Komjisha, of course, still with me, my co-host, and Nicholas Wasaja, OHTWA, Vision Group parliamentary reporter. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
And congratulations, by the way, upon your nomination all to the Buganda Richiko. Appointment, rather. Congratulations. We now have two honorables in the group with Pascal Kosiga and Gloria Nakajubi, communication specialist at Uganda Parliamentary Forum and on social protection. A very good morning and welcome to the show. And now, ladies and gentlemen, I want actually to say that we expect the President tonight, and I want to have your feel on how the speech is going to look like, because we have seen the President talking to us nearly every after a week. Is there actually anything different the President is going to focus on, especially during today's address? Nicholas, I'll start with you.
Thank you, Mubarak. One, if you remember, for about 2-3 years ago, subsequent states of the nation addresses have been focusing on the economy. However, particularly in 2019, the State of the Nation address was focusing on security, and it sought to address some of the challenges that the country was facing then in terms of insecurity. You remember, high profiles then had been killed. The late Honorable Ibrahim Abiriga,
the Muslim clerics.
Yeah, the Muslim clerics. You remember, that's the time when Afande Chirumira was killed. So then it focused largely on security. However, today, what I think should be different in all the addresses, the national addresses that the President has been doing in regard to COVID, he has subtly talked about the economy, and he's optimistic. However, my thinking is that for most Ugandans, what should be the focus today should be how to recover the economy. That is one. There are very many that are waiting to hear whether we are going to have a stimulus package for Ugandans like the rest of the countries have done, and how he's planning to support the private sector, or government is planning to support the private sector so that it gets back on its feet, because that's where largely the country is dependent. But also, secondly, you know very well that we have less than 6 months to the general elections 2021. Yes. So my expectation would be that it should not miss the President's eye that we talk about the prospects of the 2021 general elections. The roadmap has been adversely affected, and but you realize that the Electoral Commission is going ahead with its preparations. Last week, a bid was issued, was published in the National Gazette, calling out companies or contractors to that can print ballot papers, which means although they did not categorize which kind of ballot papers in the recent past, the presidential ballot papers have been printed from outside Uganda, but the rest of the ballot papers are secured from South Africa and then from within. So that means that they are going ahead with their preparations. For how long COVID is going to hold the elections at bay, we are all just waiting. So we think that the president should be able to address those two key issues.
Gloria, are these actually the issues highlighted by Nicholas should be the center of focus in this year's State of the Nation address? And which areas do you think the president shouldn't miss out?
Yeah, thank you so much, and thank you, colleagues. Yeah, it's good to be back here. Yeah, I think Nicholas actually points out some of the critical issues that the president should be looking at. And I want to say that in the past, actually, the last address by the president, you realize that he actually appreciates that the economy is doing badly. And he, you know, before he would say, well, he would actually castigate economists and say, you know, you people are threatening the population.
He calls them prophets of doom.
Exactly. But I think he's come to terms with the fact that, well, things are actually not as he keeps on assuming. People are struggling, and like he says, we need to see the president come out strongly on the stimulus package. How is he going to support the population? I mean, people out there want to see real interventions. They want to hear the president say, okay, I mean, you're not going to tell people about building roads, road construction. No, that's not going to work right now. People want to hear you say, how am I going to help your struggling business? How am I going to help you come back? How am I going to help to push you? Because people need a push right now.
It all goes back to the common person.
Yes.
Especially the women and children, the vulnerable, the special interest groups. I'm wondering actually how the president will come out to lay strategies on how to help these people. Are you seeing a special package for such people, especially Lynn, if you look at the president talking about road constructions, because we have heard him talking about prioritizing infrastructure works, which has actually been the biggest sector that is taking the lion's share on the national budget. And then you're having health, rather education, you're having security, defense. Are you seeing a paradigm shift caused by COVID-19?
It's not about missing. I think it's about the government, of course, headed by the president, seeing that there's need for that shift. Because these are very strange times. And I would, like they have said, expect the president to direct his speech towards what the country is going through right now. Paint a picture of what the economic situation looks like. Paint a picture of what measures have been put in place, especially to deal with the shocks of COVID-19, deal with the domestic arrears that are in existence, deal with lots of, he has been meeting, traders over rent. We need to know, what have they come up with? What are they going to do about that? Also look at, there's a very interesting bit here, job losses. People are not going to be getting salaries, which means the government is not going to be able to deduct some of that money that goes into social services. So we also need to look at that. It definitely has to change.
The impact of COVID-19 is obvious, and everybody is seeing that. I'm wondering whether the president needs to dwell so much on what we have been seeing. Is it going to be different from what he has been actually addressing us?
I think we are all speaking the ideal. The president sometimes wants to be unpredictable. Time and again, everyone has pressed that we should have, the government should come out to address, to tell us in real terms how the economy has been affected and how they expect to revive it. Now, the Ministry of Finance has been running around in circles. We are coming today, we are coming tomorrow. It has taken Parliament to institute a special committee to start looking at what exactly interfacing with, say, the private sector, interfacing with border people, interfacing with everyone, all stakeholders, to assess what the problem is. Now, all of us want to hear him come out, but when you look at, for example, because the State of the Nation address is the foundation, is the bedrock for the budget.
Yes.
Now, when you look at the budget and how it was structured, and there's a minority report to that effect, and people were saying we need to go back and revisit the budget. We need to refocus the budget because we are under the crisis.
Does it actually reflect the situation on the ground, Gloria?
That's a challenge.
Yes.
That's what the problem is, because they're doing business
As usual,
Yes.
yes.
for a situation that is unusual.
That's right.
Which raises an issue of, okay, what exactly are you budgeting for? If a budget does not speak to the issues at hand, then it is just another practice. You're fulfilling another task. So I think that is where the problem is. The budget is not speaking to the challenges of the time.
Are you not actually calling for, because shouldn't the government stop functioning because
No, we
COVID-19
are
has
just
come into
calling
place?
for a responsive budget. We do not want a budget that is in vain. We want a budget that responds to issues, that responds to people's challenges. Because if it is, because like people always say, if it is not in the budget, if the president is going to tell you, I'm going to support informal sector workers, if that is not in the budget, then it is just rhetoric.
Yeah, that's
So
right.
I think that's where the challenge is. The budget has to speak to the challenges of the time.
But
That-
you know, the
does
Minister of Finance mentioned that there would be changes as and when, you know, they're ready to do. But has that happened? Have they made any adjustments at all?
The only adjustments in government planning that you're seeing is supplementary budgets and loan requests. Actually,
And maybe troubles, which are no
yeah.
longer.
No, the troubles. Those are some of the issues.
Justify that.
Those are some of the issues that people were raising. They were saying, okay, fine, you cannot fundamentally overhaul the budget
That's
because
right.
this came after the budget processes that
Had
the budget
already
framework
started.
paper had been done. But for example, of what purpose is it for us to allocate close to 1 billion shillings to travels for MPs,
Yeah.
yet we know all borders across the world are closed. You get it? So what we are seeing, for example, when you look at that controversial supplementary budget that was passed, the 900 billion, everyone was asking questions that, why is it that you're spending 400 billion in classified expenditure and you're giving only as little as 100 billion to the health sector,
Yes.
yet they are at the front line. You've had stories where health workers are complaining that they are not receiving their allowances. PPEs are not in place. So the government seems, well, everyone had given it the benefit of the doubt that it is going to do the right thing under the circumstances. But it seems like over time, as we are going on, we are falling back, we are slipping back into the usual
Gloria,
unusual prioritization.
we have already seen actually the priorities of government, as you earlier said, infrastructure, defense, security, and some of the key ones, agriculture.
I feel like there's a template. They just, you know,
But
adjust.
even
them.
agriculture struggles. Even they just talk about it, but we look at the money.
Where actually, how should it have looked like, especially during this time we are faced with?
I think for me, it would be like we would have seen, because we went through a shock. And
We are still going through it.
yeah, we are still going through it exactly.
yes.
So there is need for like a reconfiguration.
Yes.
Our priorities have to change. I think we need to, policymakers, decision makers, and government need to appreciate that your people are still the most important resource that you have. So unless you focus on your people, there is no way you're going to push your economy by leaving your people behind.
That's true.
So right now, what we need is a people-centered intervention, whereby we see that at the center of it all, priority is on how do I get back my people on their foot.
I also suggesting
How
that
do
there should
I-
be a shift from priorities.
Yes, exactly. That is the
Overturning
yes.
the
And when you
priorities.
look
And
at the-
actually, Lynn is mentioning a very interesting issue that this looks to be a template.
It
that
is.
we just
It
put
is.
It is.
in those areas. I'm wondering whether you have a parliament, Nicholas, that can actually scrutinize.
Nicholas, I also wonder
Yes,
what's happening
well,
elsewhere.
you might not blame Parliament so much because,
Yeah.
like I told you, they even wrote a minority report, albeit it was signed by 2 people. But when it came to debate, these concerns were raised.
Simple minority.
But what Ministry of Finance was saying was that, well, we cannot stop planning just because we are under crisis. But look, what people are saying is that what we need to do right now is tweak a few things. You get it?
Who is in charge of
Where
tweaking?
where is that?
Who is
Where-
going to do that?
No, and which area do you think should be actually affected? Because we understand that whereas COVID is still here, we still need the security, we still need defense, we still need infrastructure development.
Sure, you need security, but for example, you don't think that anyone is concentrating on attacking you, so you need 400 billion for a classified expenditure.
Gloria, do you agree with that? Because
I mean-
I'm wondering, the social services must continue
Yes.
you know,
Yes.
being delivered to the people.
Yes,
So if you really call for a shift, that will also put the government into a very tricky situation where it may not be able to continue delivering the services they are supposed to do.
No, but I mean, I don't want us, we don't want to make it seem like if they deliver what we want, that is not what they're supposed to do. We have a social contract with them, so they're supposed to deliver services to us. So if we feel that actually what they're doing right now does not deliver on their mandate, then we actually have to question, have to raise, have to start asking questions on why and when and how are they going to be coming in to support us who have been in a lockdown for the 75 days.
That's
Yesterday,
right.
the president,
Yes.
rather Dr. Kizza Besigye, the opposition leader, was talking about some kind of stimulus package, as you're talking about,
Yeah.
proposing for government to give people, at least each family, to be receiving about 100,000 shillings.
Can we afford that?
Is this something that actually should also be reflected in the presidential address?
Well, the presidential address might not go into the nitty-gritties of, for example, how much it can, if government has really organized itself, it can, but well, you might need to have to look at how much the government has been able to mobilize in terms of local revenue. But look here, Mbar, we are not saying that a stimulus package should necessarily, you might not be able to afford 100,000 for all the families in Uganda. You get it? But for example, like clean race, that if you have domestic areas to a tune of 3 trillion. You
Yeah.
get it. Even if you paid 1.5 trillion, you get it, to the domestic, to the local market, you would know that you will have a significant number of businesses up on their feet and running. You have, in the previous budget, 2019-2020, you allocated shillings 20 billion to pay off traders that lost business in South Sudan. Up to now, by the time of COVID, we were going into the last quarter, and this money hadn't yet been paid. So if government had taken the responsibility that these people, and it's not even your money, it is money that government of South Sudan is going to pay back. But if government was organized, if you didn't have the kind of controversies that we are hearing from there, you would know that that particular section of the business community has been sorted. You get it. If, for example, you removed taxes on private institutions, education institutions, you would know that in as much as I am not going to directly invest in private institutions, you get it, but I have made a contribution so they can save a bit of money to do other things that help them progress.
This actually also gets back, do we have a parliament that actually can scrutinize all these issues? And I'm talking about...
It's been doing that.
No, but you know budgets have been passed using templates.
I want to say something about the issue of the cash transfers, the 100,000 the opposition, specifically Dr. Besigye was proposing. And I want to say, it's not something that is alien. Governments world over have actually done this. When you look at the interventions that different countries have come up with to safeguard and cushion their populations against poverty and vulnerability during this crisis, they have given out cash transfers.
That's right.
And about a half of all the interventions are cash transfers. Even neighboring Kenya,
Yes.
they gave out a cash transfer.
But
It could be...
they asked us
No.
for 10,000
This is one thing. I think we need to be a population that believes that our government, or ask our government to do certain things. But every time you say, if the president can hint on the fact that they can provide a radio for every home,
every village.
No, a radio was
No,
for
that
every home.
that
How
TV
was
was
every
every
home?
village, a radio for
Every home. How much is a radio?
About 20,000.
On average, it is maybe 30.
Let's say 30,000. How they sent out 59 billion shillings to buy posho and beans.
Yes.
Yeah. So when you look at all
And
that
we are
money,
going back
if you
to the
had
same
actually
areas they
put
have.
that money, and then we actually have 100,000 people, maybe, sorry, 100,000 shillings for every household, I think it would have served a better purpose than, because
Because
this
it gets
whole,
back
the
into the
procure-
economy.
It gets back into
Gets
the
back
economy.
into
Do you also agree with this?
I very much agree with this, because you see, you put the money, you give the money to the people. The people are definitely going to buy the things they need.
You're talking
What
about
does that
supporting
do?
the private sector.
Exactly.
There has to be demand on this side. You're talking about
Exactly.
only the supply side. How about the demand side? If people cannot buy, so even if you support the private sector, even if you support businesses, there'll be no one to buy.
No, but we understand that
So you should
actually
also be-
we have been giving donations to the fight against COVID-19, and actually they proposed that the National Task Force proposed that we pay 10,000 shillings for those ones who are earning salaries. So I'm wondering how this is possible when actually the people that you want to give
But
are receiving
you
from
see,
you.
you're talking about a population of 40 million people.
Yeah.
Of 40 million people, that 30 billion has been contributed by less than 10,000 Ugandans.
That's
you
right.
get it. And these are largely posturing for public relations.
Exactly.
Believe me or not, you
Yes.
get it. But now, just imagine a scenario where, okay, fine, it's unfortunate that the president actually thinks that borders are for the rich. But just imagine those young men that tried borders that had nothing to do, that had nothing to do but tried borders, graduates. Just imagine if you gave them just an extra 10,000 shillings to get them on the road, back on the road, and what that would mean for, because on 10,000 you can ride in Kampala for the whole day.
That's
And
true.
by the end of the day, they will be able to go back with 20,000. So they will be up and running. They'll need nothing from you.
Where could the problem coming from? Is it the money? We don't have the money? Is it a lack of political will?
I
Is
don't
it,
No, like we
why is the
highlighted
problem?
earlier, it's
Because-
really priorities. If you have skewed priorities,
Yes.
where you actually think, I think we still deal with this economics whereby there's an assumption that somehow if the government invests here, it will trickle down to the population. But no, that is not the economics that world over people are adopting. People are adopting the economics whereby you boost people from down.
Exactly.
And then you push them up so that you can boost the entire economy, because they have realized that actually, because this is what we've been doing and nothing has changed. So we have to do things
I
differently.
mean, then who is in charge of doing things differently? We have put people in positions that we expect them to deliver on. What is happening elsewhere in the world? What are they doing? Have they tweaked their budgets? Have they?
But you are all actually focusing onto the resource envelope of the state, but what we are seeing at the Uganda Revenue Authority
Yes.
is something not actually interesting. Doesn't actually this point to the fact that the monies may not be available as you may think?
But here is the thing. How do you raise money? How do you raise money? If you've not invested
you've
in
not
your people,
invested,
then you'll not raise money.
Look at a
Not
new
raise
You're
business.
basically
Yes.
squeezing,
Mubarak, look
Yes.
at a small business. You have to invest for it to do something.
yeah.
You have to put something for you to realize something. But if you have not invested in your people, who are exactly the ones that give you the revenue, what are you going to get
Your
the
people
money
have
from?
to be very productive.
Are you looking forward for a State of the Nation address that actually provides solutions to end COVID-19, or
Obviously.
to
Well, maybe
actually
not to
make
end.
people live?
Maybe not to end.
COVID-19
Until
COVID-19
we don't have-
will be a
we
global
don't have a
solution.
virus. Well, the president keeps telling us that our scientists are working
Are
on
working
a
on
vaccine.
vaccine,
So
yes.
And I
maybe,
trust
yeah.
them.
So if they invest in that area, maybe we're going to,
Yes.
to be looking at an end to COVID-19. But before that, we actually are looking at a State of the Nation address that is looking at boosting productivity of this economy.
Absolutely.
That is what we are looking
And
at.
Nicholas,
sustainability.
I think
You're looking at this, we are also looking at the same, maybe, we could agree with Gloria, but are you also looking at a State of the Nation that is actually more broader than just a COVID-19 management?
I think yes, but I might not be able to predict his mind, but I think by and large he will be able, in words, to be able to promise Ugandans that there will be something done, but in real terms and actualizing what he's going to state in the State of the Nation address might be a challenge. One, because you understand that we also have that question of regime survival. And world over, all regimes that have stayed for long survive on the vulnerability of the people. It makes so much sense if every time...
That's a very nice theory.
It makes so much sense if I want to survive in power, and every time I see you coming with a begging bowl. So you will realize that at the beginning of this whole thing, 2 weeks down the road, before distribution of posho and beans, everyone was literally on their knees. And when you follow trends on social media and all that,
it could be different, because the ones who is actually supposed to be giving is the one that is coming with the begging bowl.
but exactly, that's what I'm saying. That people that previously, for example, most of the challenges for this government have been around Kampala, Wakiso, and Mukono, and probably Masaka. So if you're concentrating, if you're locking them down for 2 weeks, for 3 months, and they can barely feed themselves, and now you come in with a helping hand, you're giving them posho and beans, most definitely the narrative is going to change by 2021.
Lynn, are you looking at a different state of the nation away from the eye that Nicholas and Gloria would be carrying?
I wouldn't describe it as looking forward, because at this point I don't know if I'm still hopeful that there's going to be change of what the things have been, because we can already see from what the budget seems to look like, which the president of course is going to
Which is
look
already
at.
passed.
It has already been passed. So I'm thinking it's pretty much the same, but maybe he can promise, like Wasta just said here, he can promise a few changes here and there, but I don't see much changing. I was very disturbed when I saw the budget for the health ministry, which is on the front line. It's still on the low.
2.8 trillion.
It's imagine just little money. The rest is going to other priorities. If we cannot focus our priorities on what actually is happening right now in our economy, then I don't know. I'm not,
because we have actually so many sectors that may not be in urgent need of resources as of now.
What do you mean?
what
Gender ministry.
What do you
Are
mean?
you
Do you know how many
serious?
women and children are affected in this?
Our forum,
Ethics and
our
integrity.
forum works directly with the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development. And that is where this whole social protection policies are supposed to be implemented.
Exactly.
And we have, for instance, the money that is supposed to go towards the senior citizens who are very vulnerable at this moment. And that money, well, there is still a back and forth. Those people have not been receiving their pay for the last, some of them 3 months, for the last 6 months. We were supposed to have a national rollout that has not yet happened. Well, we've seen they've done the registration, they have enrolled people, but that hasn't happened. So you cannot say, and that is a recurrent expenditure, because these people, you enroll them, you're supposed to be paying them monthly,
Yes.
but that money has not yet been
So
provided.
which area
Even the next
do you
financial year,
think-
there is already a shortfall.
Which area,
Well,
Nicholas?
all
I
we are
think, would you
saying-
think
all
that,
we are saying-
should be, cut by
No,
maybe a half so
all
that
we
you
are
can
saying,
support the
just
stimulus
make
package.
priorities.
You have to cut political spending. You get
Yes.
it? For example, you do not need another layer of a COVID task force at the constituency level. Okay, you have to cut administrative costs. For example, you are supposed to motivate civil servants to understand that probably some of the privileges that they have been going away with, and at the expense of the rest of the Ugandans, like all the
I
other
run
private
home for a
sectors have
bit.
suffered.
I mean,
So,
You're
Gloria,
suffering a
which area do you
40%.
think should be, cut at least by half so that we can support the stimulus package?
Well,
as
you
we're talking
couldn't, you
about?
may not say cut at least by half, but
You may not
like
have anywhere to touch.
but like they've already highlighted, there are things really that we cannot do as we used to do.
Yes.
Workshops.
Yes,
Yeah.
which are
We
no
can-
longer in
it's
existence.
no
They're
longer.
more like luxury meetings.
Yeah, luxury meet, but also they're also a hazard. I mean, if you're not going to host 100 people in one conference room, and so those ones.
Would I be
And there is
wrong?
a lot of money that goes into all these
Yes,
workshops.
a
So
lot
that money needs to be.
Would I be wrong that each and everybody that is under a different sector would feel like my sector is very important and actually shouldn't
Everybody's
be affected?
like that.
Yes,
Yes.
but there are definitely things that you cannot do under the circumstances. There are things that need to be.
Sports.
Yeah, you need to change the way. What do you mean sports? That they don't need money anymore?
Because, there is no more sport that is going on now.
But actually, the sports industry world over is starting to open up, so
They
that
need
may
the
not.
money.
You see sports, unlike many other sectors,
Yes.
sports one can generate its own resources.
Yes.
You get it as an activity,
Yes.
but also secondly, for example, you've read in the papers the challenges of mental breakdowns and mental health, and these are affecting especially young people
Yes.
that have lost jobs, young people that have suffered domestic violence. So you might not be able to do away with such activities that will probably help them
Other
get
than
back on their
political
feet.
spending, is there any other area that you think should be actually given priority during this time?
Yes, there are areas
There are
that should
very
be
many
given.
areas.
Yes, if you focus on health, if you're able to focus on education, and you're able to focus on agriculture, because at the end of the day, I mean, COVID-19 has left all of us bare and understanding that at the end of the day, you basically need two things. You need food and you need life.
That's right.
So for as long as you have food and you have life, everything else doesn't matter.
As we are winding up, I want actually to pick each and every one of you's comment about public transport resuming in town. And today, taxis are back in town. Gloria, are you actually seeing us fighting COVID-19, or we are just now saying the ends will justify the means?
You know, of course, they came up with the SOPs on how we can actually be able to mitigate or prevent the spread of COVID-19, even with the public transport coming back.
Yes.
So I think if we adhere with with the regulations, with what we have been told to do, I think maybe we will, because the fact is we cannot lock down forever. People have to come out, people have to go back and work. So whichever way we do it, we just have to follow the guidelines. We just have to do things the right way. I think we need to get back to work.
Nicholas, do you agree?
Yes, of course we need public transport, but I think with the traffics that we've suffered when we were using only private means, I think government needs to reflect deeply on reorganizing public transport
Doesn't this
and
actually
taking charge.
frustrate public, the fight against COVID? Because social distancing in public transport seems to be something very hard to manage.
Well, you've seen, for example, the trunks in Japan. Well, they are still using public transport and they're using trains, but man, if they say you observe a 2-meter distance, you have to observe it, or
Do you think we are actually progressing in the fight against this?
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. Only if we observe the SOPs. But I also want to, I'm very stressed about the fares that have shot up. There are no customers, first of all. Most people are still in the lockdown. Not everybody's going to work. And now the fares have shot up. I don't know what we're going to do with that.
And that actually brings us to the end of this discussion. We expect the president to be coming in at exactly 2 p.m. And of course, we shall be here with a few guests. Frederick Ruhindi, former Member of Parliament for Nakawa, and Issa Sechito, spokesperson, Kampala, capital city of Kampala City Traders Association, and also Sise Kagaba from the Anti-Corruption Coalition Uganda. They will be here to discuss the pre-State of the Nation address and what the expectations they have. But also don't forget to join us on Twitter, on Facebook, Urban Television, and on our Twitter handles at Mubarak UG and also at Lin UG3. We will be actually reading the comments in as the program is going on. We are taking a short break. When we return, there is still Seguia Wolgambo and also Becky Cynthia Nachimera with the sport.